Chapter 6. First Contact. There's apparently something like adrenaline intoxication, I'm thinking. I wasn't actually thinking at that moment, but later. I tried to stand up to better defend myself from the unknown coffer, but that wasn't happening. I became a very shaky engineer. Coordination fled, and I slumped to my knees. The spear slipped from my hands, now through the bars of my cage, me clumsily grasping after it. My heart felt like it was going to tear out of my chest. Gasping, I slowly curled over into a ball, listening to the clatter of my spear on the gravel down by the creek. This is, I thought, not good. Deep breathing, I sort of tried. My thinking was not exactly right, but I managed to inhale and exhale in a long, slow rhythm that seemed to be the right thing to do. It must have been, for in a couple of minutes I was getting it back together. As vision first cleared, I felt I could move as I intended. My first action was to look through the don't-fall-out-of-bed slats down to where my spear went. There, sniffing the spear, was the widest lion I had ever imagined, maybe half again as thick at the waist as your standard lion, sniffing my spear. No mane, but more fur in the main place than an African lioness has. Great American lion sprang to my ever-surprising mind. Don't ask. Okay, National Geographic TV, on long-gone megafauna, just a few weeks before the trip to Denison Dam. I watched it with my 9-year-old nephew. They had great animation of American great lions. The real thing is more impressive. I swear this monster picked up my spear, just slipped a paw under it and picked it up to sniff at the sharpened end. Then it looked up at me. Ever locked eyes with a lion? "Yeah, okay, that's mine," I sort of barked it out. "What's it to you?" I suppose I was a little crazy at just that moment. My whole body system was in full overclock, pulse pounding in my ears. I could even feel it in my hands. The lion was just the opposite, confidently relaxed, unhurried. It gently took my spear in its mouth, exactly in the middle it seemed to me, gave it a little shake, then laid it down by the stream. Truly the damnedest thing I've ever seen, up to then anyway. It looked up and down my tree, surveying the situation, you might say. With one more glance in my direction, it crossed the creek to the half-buried root ball, then lightly, for it's 800-odd pounds, I guessed, leapt onto the trunk and started my way, easing his bulk around the big vertical limb and trotting right up to my cage. There she, I could see now, stopped maybe 5 meters away, sat down for a moment, then dropped to her stomach and made a huge yawn. It was like looking into a fanged cave. That cat's head was as big as a medicine ball with eyes, and a mouth that went clear to the edges. When she closed her mouth, it sounded like a kid doing a belly flop. Then she licked her chops, locked me into another eye contact. Incredible blue eyes. I was pressed back on the other side of my cage. This time there might have been an adrenaline deficit in my bludgeoned glands. It's not that I was calm exactly, more floating in fatalistic resignation. A passing thought was, where will it bite me first? At least I wasn't fainting now. There was absolutely no doubt in my mind that this big cat could get into my cage. She would stand on her hindquarters and simply push the vertical limbs apart and squeeze in. I decided I would squeeze out the moment that started. Then I would fight my way up through the mass of limbs toward the sloping top of my tree until maybe the branches would be too small for the lion to follow. I didn't think that one through too carefully. Then the lion sat up. For the first time I noticed she had borne cubs at least once. Her teats were stretched like my kitty's after a litter. A vivid picture of that cat of mine, Miranda, lying on my chest, me on the couch, rushed into my memory. Of all things for a mind to bring up at a time like this. It was vivid. I could feel her warm weight and feel her purr. The actual cat in my reality roared. Oh, my heavenly Father, what a roar! I, of course, screamed like a girl. That she seemed to take note of, canting her head to one side as she looked at me, sort of like my Airedale somewhere up in the future looked at me when I sneezed. Long-lost pets were streaming up from my lower brain. That Airedale's name was Rocket. His whole name was Rocket Dammit. That was all way too much for my jangling nervous system. The laugh was back. It came up from my gut like an obscene belch, and I knew when it started there was nothing I could do about it. Hysteria deserves its name. I knew full out that I was about to die, laughing. The lion looked down at the half-butchered fish carcass at my feet. I laughed even harder, leaned over, picked it up by its tail handle, and walked down my little floor, barely able to stand up with the laughter shaking me so hard. I tossed the fish into the lion's huge chest. "Pretty skinned," I shouted, and fell to my knees. It whuffed, backed up slightly, sniffed the fish, then ate it with a single wet crunch. I collapsed in complete, unrestrainable laughter, helpless even to keep myself from rolling into the branches that separated me from the lion. I knew I was a dead man. I knew it. A huge paw reached through the verticals and across my chest. No flashing of my life before my dying eyes. No pain. No fear could be felt through the hysterical laughter. No claws extended. The beast's paw was like a very heavy throw pillow, simply resting on my heaving chest, sort of like Miranda's body. She seemed to be holding me down and clearly not ripping my heart out. This lasted a bit. My mind did some crazy. If I only had a compact vidcam tied to the ceiling branches recording all this, this would be a giant hit on the social sites. "Man not killed by giant lioness," it would say. Millions would watch. Then the heavy paw lifted off. The lioness wheeled around on the slanted log and walked down, her substantial butt swinging back and forth as she left me alive and profoundly weirded out. The hysterical laughter gradually morphed into sobbing. Think about it. A naked man, covered with fish scales, completely out of emotional control, in a makeshift treehouse after a near-death experience with an extinct lion. You would cry, too. I cried myself to sleep.